I think when you think about the ripple effect, I want you to remember a couple things. That number one, it's based on like this innate knowledge that we're all connected, that none of us are islands in the stream. Well, hello there, my friends. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm Jennifer, and welcome to the Jennifer Allwood Show. Somebody was asking me the other day, what's the name of your podcast? And I'm like, well, it's called the Jennifer Allwood Show because I just couldn't think of anything more original. And I remember I was working with a marketing company in New York City when I started the podcast. And I started the podcast because they urged me to. They're like, it will help with book sales. It will help with your coaching. You're a decent conversationalist. And I mean, I think they said good conversationalist, but I'm playing that down to good conversationalist. My husband would not agree with them. But anyway, so this morning, Jason literally had to say, Jen, use your words. And I'm like, menopause tongue is hard. Sometimes things get stuck. Anyway, oh, good. I put the dogs up because there's people outside and they would be barking. But thanks for listening. I appreciate you so much. So I'm going to talk today about the topic of the ripple effect. And I think this is going to be a really good podcast for those of you who are feeling discouraged about life or business right now, or those of you who really need a reminder about what God is calling you to and your responsibility to that. And so if you're like, you know what, not discouraged about life or business, and I'm really discouraged that you're talking about God, Jennifer, then probably not the podcast episode for you. So come back another time. But otherwise, for those of you who are feeling a little bit discouraged, I think this is going to be really good for you in particular. Okay. So yesterday I'm going about my business, just doing life, all the things. And twice the phrase ripple effect was brought up to me. And so I have walked with the Lord long enough to know that if I hear something more than once, especially in a small amount of time, then I pay attention because I'm always curious, like, is God trying to speak to me? Like, I think that we think that the voice of God, is supposed to be like an audible, Jennifer, put down the cupcake. And while sometimes that may be the case, I think often God speaks to us in other ways through repetition, through song lyrics. I literally one time was praying, God, give me a sign. It was to leave corporate America years and years ago and start my painting company. And that it was so funny. I literally am driving back across the bridge that goes from downtown Kansas City to the Northland where I live. If you're in Kansas City, you'll know exactly which bridge I'm talking about. And I literally see a billboard for the company who I've just been offered a job at. I'm like, God, show me a sign. And God's like, titty, titty, da. And here's an actual billboard. It was funny. But anyway, I think that sometimes God uses repetition to speak important things to us. I was looking for an example of this in the Bible, and I know, like in the book of Genesis, when God wanted to get an important message through to an Egyptian ruler, he gave Pharaoh the same dream like 2 times in a row. And so, I try to pay attention to repetition. So yesterday I got ripple effect twice. So let me tell you what they were. The first one is I was looking for a good podcast yesterday morning. And do you ever just like, you have kind of like your go-to? So my go-to podcast for spiritual things, for Christian, coaching, teaching, whatever, is going to be Elevation Church or Bill Johnson. Those are the two, or Sarah Jakes Roberts or Sarah Jake's husband, Teray. So it's going to be one of those. That's kind of my go-to if I'm wanting to listen something that is Christian based while I'm getting ready for work or whatever. So I turn on a podcast. And by the way, I hope that my podcast is one of those for you, that kind of a go-to. And if it is, thank you. So I turned on this podcast from Elevation Church, and it was a really recent episode, and it was called Reverse the Ripple. And Stephen Furtick's team has they do just a great job of like titling things. They have somebody who's snazzy with their words, title things. So Reverse the Ripple. And maybe that was Pastor Stephen that named it that. But essentially, he had a quote in there. So I'm doing my hair, I'm putting on my makeup, I'm getting ready for my day. I'm listening to the podcast. I'm also listening to, sound of Ari in the other room getting ready and Jason getting ready. But Pastor Stephen said something that made me hit pause, made me hit the reverse 30-second button, and made me tell Siri to make a note. Okay. So here's what he said. Now my Siri's probably going to go off. Oh, it hasn't. I've said Siri twice and it hasn't gone off. Now that's 3 times. Okay. Anyway, Pastor Stephen said, I'm going to read this so I don't mess it up. Make sure you respect your calling enough to take responsibility for your ripple or ripple effect. I'm like, wait. Okay. Make sure you respect your calling enough to take responsibility for your ripple. So I rewound that and listened to it again. And I typed it up in my notes, like I said. I thought I really need to reflect on that and really think about what that means. But it was one of those things that like, do you ever just hear something and it's like a wha-bam, never heard it like that before, right? So then later in the day, we had a flower delivery and it was farm girl flowers in a cute little box, and opened up the farm girl flowers. I'm putting on my glasses here if you're watching on YouTube so that I can read the note to you. So I got farm girl flowers delivered to me from Stephen and Chelsea Diaz. They have a course on selling on Amazon, and they asked me to come into a workshop that they were doing last week. And it was just talking about entrepreneurship. They had a panel of people who were, making seven figures and above per year. And they had us just talk about, wealth and what wealth meant, et cetera, et cetera. So anyhow, they sent me flowers as a thank you, but here's what the thank you note said. Now, again, this is just a couple hours later. Thank you for your time and your words of wisdom that you shared with our Rainmaker students. Pause as I get a hair out of my mouth. Sorry about that. If you're not watching on YouTube, then no worries. Okay, let me start all over. Thank you for your time and words of wisdom that you shared with our Rainmaker students. The ripple effect from what you shared touched so many hearts. Thank you, Stephen and Chelsea Diaz. Okay, so I hear that and I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Okay, so that's twice in the same day. I'm hearing people talk about the ripple to totally different, people. What, Lord, are you wanting me to do with this? And the only thing I could kind of come up with was to do a podcast. And so that's what I'm doing. Okay. So if you look up the definition of the ripple effect, let me just say this. The definition is that the ripple effect is a phenomenon that occurs, I got to use my Thurston Howell voice, that occurs when an initial event or disturbance spreads out, causes a series of other events to happen. The effects of a ripple effect can be far reaching and may not be immediately obvious, which I'm going to talk about here in just a second. So when I think of ripple effect, I think of like, throwing a stone into water and then seeing the ripples that happen because of that. I think of, dropping something into a body of water, and then that one action, causes a chain of events. And so if you're looking at like, real life examples, I came up with a couple for you. Okay. So like, let's say you were to save somebody's life. They are drowning in the ocean. You're staying at Bougie on the beach. You see somebody drowning. They're caught in a rip current. You rush out, you save them. And then those people, that person that you saved, goes on to like better their community, give their life to Christ because they're so glad that they deserved a second chance. Then they end up, serving in a lot of different ways. Well, that's a ripple effect caused by their life having been saved. Okay. Another example, which may be a little more practical than the saving somebody drowning, but have you ever been at like Starbucks or any other coffee store? I don't usually go to Starbucks, but I don't usually go to buy coffee out anyway. But anyhow, have you ever like gone and bought a coffee at Starbucks and somebody like ahead of you covered the cost of your coffee? And so then you pull up and the lady's like, hey, that car ahead of you, they got your coffee. They said to just pay it forward. And then you're like, well, gosh, let me pay it forward to the people behind me. So you pay for their coffee and those people pay for the coffee behind them. That's a ripple effect. That's a ripple effect. Our buying decisions and behaviors create ripple effects. If you think about, if you ever go and you rate a product or you buy something from Amazon, you go in and you leave a review. If you see a Facebook ad and you make a comment and then somebody else make a comment and then somebody else make that, like that can, make a ripple effect in terms of sales. If we want a couple like deeper examples, let's talk about the ripple effect of, the family that you came from, or if you have children, the children that you're raising. So if you've come from a divorced parents, as I have, as Jason has, there's a ripple effect to that. If your parents ever declared bankruptcy and you and the people, their parents, which would be your grandparents, had came from like a position of poverty, but you are stopping that, like that was the ripple effect that then you're often left with the challenge of, are you going to, on a generational level, like pass this on to your children or stop that ripple effect? So ripple effects can be good and bad. A really recent one that I was thinking of was the ripple effect that occurred during the pandemic because our country was shut down. This affected so many small businesses. there were huge delays in production, which then caused all those ships to be stuck out in the ocean, right? Do you remember that? And then things like us just getting a pool liner into our house was like nearly impossible that year. The kids are out of school. There's a lot of children that are very delayed because of that. There was a ripple effect of a lot of kids just not wanting to go back to traditional school as we knew it. There was definitely a ripple effect. And so when I was thinking about, okay, Lord, so you've shown me ripple effect twice today. What is it that you're wanting me to share? I think what the Lord wanted me to share with you is to not underestimate the ripple effect that you are making currently on others and or have the potential to make. Especially those of you who are working to like start your business, grow your business, or scale your business. Okay. And so I was thinking about you entrepreneurs in particular and ripple effects for you. All right. And so there was three that I wanted to talk about in particular, because the first one, I think like sometimes we fail to realize that if we will do the things that are needed to start a business, to grow a business, to scale a business, it affects others. That is a ripple effect. If you start a business, you are creating jobs potentially for other people. You are creating margin for you to possibly be more available to your family and things if you're creating it online. When you start a business, it supports your local community, especially if you have a brick and mortar. So there's like this whole ripple effect to that. When I owned my painting company, I was trying to think of some like real life examples here. When I owned my painting company, the Magic Brush in Kansas City, there was a real ripple effect to the decision of not going back to corporate America. So I decide I'm not going back to corporate America. I'm going to bet on me. I'm going to bet on this talent that I enjoy doing that I have no idea if I could actually make money off it. So started my painting company, the Magic Brush. Owned that painting company for 17 years. And by the time we were at 17 years, I had 8 different women painting for me. And, women had come and gone. Several of the women came, worked for me, and went out and started their own painting companies, which I blessed that. Because I knew that it was part of the ripple effect. It's never just about us. See, we live in such a society, in such a world where we are so me-centered that we forget that all of our decisions affect others inevitably. And so, I knew sometimes that when I hired somebody, there's a real possibility that this girl's a hustler and that she's going to go out and start something on her own. But I also, was cognizant of the fact that I may just be called to be a little piece of her story. And this is part of the ripple effect. I think about one of the girls who worked for me, who was able to, while she was painting for me, gain the confidence to leave an abusive marriage where there was drug addiction, and because she had income coming in, she got self-confidence, based on the skills that she was learning. She knew she could stand on her own feet. And so please don't hear that I'm saying like, oh, I did such a good job of affecting others' life. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying sometimes having the ability to make gutsy decisions, to follow God's leading, to do something that you're terrified to do affects so many other people. Okay. So that's one way as entrepreneurs that we create a ripple effect. Another way is that we inspire others. That is ripple effect also, friends. That is tangible also. Even if you never go on to hire anybody to help you in your business, there are other people, I promise, that are watching you. They're watching you solve problems. They're watching you change an industry. They're watching you come up with ideas. They're watching your creativity. They're watching your joy on social media. And so, when I think about that, like a real life example for me would be, I have coached with some incredible humans. I am a business coach, and I really believe in the idea of also being coached. I think all coaches need coaches. And so when I think about the ripple effect of a couple of coaches who changed everything in my business, I think about what would our life look like today if those couple of coaches, and I'm thinking of you, Sandra Krakowski in particular, and you, Stu McLaren in particular, like what would happen? Brandon Poulin, thinking of you too. Like, what if those 3 never had the guts to start their own business? Like, because I'm part of the ripple effect. They made decisions that were big, hard, and scary to go all in on themselves, to go against traditional, thinking in America, which is that we go work for somebody else at a 9-to-5 job. We get our 2 weeks of PTOs every year. We pray that we get a little bit of a raise every year, and we stay with the same company for 20 years and we retire and die. Like, they went against that. They bet on themselves. They did the hard work that then they were able to coach me. all three of those, and I've coached with many other great coaches besides them, but specifically, like there's those coaches are the ones that each planted something in me. Whoa, what did that hair just do? That each planted something in me that my family and you guys are all experiencing the fruit of. Like they were willing to fight their own battles, to slay their own dragons, so that they could get into a coaching position where then they could give advice to someone like me, whose life would be forever changed, whose kids' lives would be forever changed. And then I'm able to do that for you. That is a ripple effect. That's a ripple effect. The third way I want to just remind you of the ripple effect of your business is that when you are starting, growing, or scaling a business, you're changing potentially like communities. There's social impact to that. I mean, because if you think about this, like entrepreneurs are some of the most generous people I know. They just are because they make more than what a traditional 9-to-5 job most of the time does. They invest in, companies they believe in. They tithe, they give. They're giving sometimes some of their education away for free. And so there's a ripple effect to that too. A real life example I can give you is I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday who has a friend of hers who's just had some really devastating news, just found out some just devastating things. And I said, girl, why don't you load her up, grab plane tickets and like take her to Bougie on the Beach, take her to our place in Florida and just sit on a beach with her for a couple of days because she's going to need, some place to process and all of the things. You guys, I could not do that. I wouldn't be able to like give in that way if I had not started my coaching company. We just wouldn't be able to give that way. We wouldn't have Bougie on the Beach or Bougie on the Desert. So those are just some tangible examples, like creating jobs, inspiring and coaching others, or creating change in your community by your giving and your tithing and the impact that you're having. And so sometimes I think we get to see a ripple effect immediately. Other times I wonder if it will be someday in heaven that we get to see some of our ripple. And so I think when you think about the ripple effect, I want you to remember a couple things. That number one, it's based on like this innate knowledge that we're all connected, that none of us are islands in the stream. It was a great song by Kenny Rogers and Dolly Parton. If you don't know it, you're showing your age. I loved that song. Also because I loved Kenny Rogers. I also love Dolly Parton. So, but none of us are like islands in the stream. We are all connected. It's a biblical principle. And I think that what Pastor Stephen Furtick was basically saying was like, respect the call of God on your life enough to take responsibility for the fact that what God is asking you to do is going to affect others. And whether or not you do or don't do it is going to affect others. There's a ripple. And so I try to remember that whenever I feel like not working, whenever I'm feeling super overwhelmed, whenever I'm feeling really burned out, whenever I'm feeling like I'm over it. And by the way, if you think that, if you don't think that happens, where I'm like, I'm so done with this, it happens. It happens to every business owner. If someone tells you it doesn't, I think that they're lying because it's not all great days. There's a lot of hard days. It's not all just getting to have all of our own hours and making residual income. I mean, that is great, absolutely. But there's also a lot of headaches and a lot of pressure and a lot of ups and downs. And so whenever I am just not feeling it, feeling super discouraged, feeling like throwing in the towel, I remind myself, okay, I am responsible to God. I have 3 of them. This is what I tell my clients. I know I'm responsible to God. And I take very seriously the call of God in my life. Number 2, I know I'm responsible to my husband and our children. They are watching Mom. All of them. I've got 4 littles that call me mother, that I want them to have great witness in our household to doing hard things, to being able to deal with hard things, to setting goals and, chasing after them, to trying to grow something. Like I want that to be something that they witness at home, because if you think they're going to witness that in school, you are so wrong. I mean, where else are your children going to learn courage and bravery other than in the home? So even if I am feeling totally burned out, I'm feeling like, just burning the whole business down, I know I'm responsible to, my family. My children are watching us. And then the third is I'm responsible to my community. And even if you're not one of my coaching clients, you're still part of my community here listening to the podcast. And so even if, I can remember when we were going to launch our software, Equip 360, several years ago, not several years ago, like 18 months ago, I was really nervous about that because anybody that follows me knows that I am not good with software. And, so there was a part of me that was like, is anybody going to want to buy software from the girl that's not good with software? And so we've really figured out a different way of looking at it. Like this software is for people who are not good with software. Um, but I can remember being really nervous about launching that. And so, and then I had to remember, okay, wait, I've got a community of women that have similar challenges to me as a business owner. They need to get an email list started. They need to get a website started. They don't know where to start. If I can provide them with the software and provide them with the virtual assistants to do that for them, like I feel a responsibility to do that, to be able to provide something that solves one of the biggest issues for our clients. Because I know if you have an email list and you have a landing page and a website, like if you have those things, you're able to make money online. And if you're able to make money online to any degree, you are able to grow that and scale that. And if you can grow that and scale that, you can change the trajectory of your family forever. And if you can change the trajectory of your family financially, it affects a whole lot of other things. Like you're able to get out of debt, you're able to give more, you're able to impact more. And so it wasn't just about launching the software. Does that make sense? And by the way, you can go to equipped360.com if you're in need of an email list and a website or a landing page, but that's not what this is about. It's about being able to say, okay, I'm scared to do this in my business. However, I know that this is bigger than me, and I've got to get over myself enough to see that there is consequences, a ripple effect. There are other people being affected by my decisions. And like in that particular instance, we have over 400 people using, or 500 people using our software right now, with websites getting started, email lists getting started, all the things. And so if you are one of those people who's currently like totally in your head right now about growing your business, I want you to think about how you staying stuck right now is really affecting others. And if you're really discouraged today, I want you to really examine maybe the ripple effect. Like one of the things I have to do is I save like words of encouragement from you guys. When somebody gives me like a phenomenal comment on YouTube, I'll screenshot that. If you send me an email that's just really touches me, I'll screenshot that. And I have a folder on my phone. And it's in Gmail and it's called encouragement. And if you're discouraged today, I encourage you to go back and see the ripple effect that you've already had in the lives of people and the lives around you. And if you're like, well, I'm just a stay-at-home mom. Okay, first of all, those are fighting words. I'll literally fight you on those words because like the ripple effect of you staying home full-time with your children is huge. It is huge. One of the reasons I have always worked for home is so that I also could be home with my kids. And so there's a huge ripple effect to what you're doing. And so I just want to give you a virtual hug today and just say, listen, don't discount the waves you're making. And don't underestimate the potential of other waves you can make. You are not an island stream. We are all connected. And so, yeah, if I think about, hearing that twice yesterday, I was like, Lord, what do you want me to share? And that's what I feel like the Lord was asking me to share with you. You have the potential to affect the lives of so many other people in your household, in your community, clients, etc. And you probably have already affected so many people. So I hope that's a gift to you today. If you're watching on YouTube, if you'd leave me a comment below. And as always, if you would like screenshot this, share this on your Instagram, tag me on that. It just helps us to get new listeners to the podcast, and that helps with everything. So much love to you, my friend. Thank you for listening today. We'll talk soon. Bye-bye. Easton. Okay, Easton, for real though, am I your favorite parent?